In this mega lesson, you'll learn everything about active and passive voice. So, watch this video till the end to master active and passive voice from zero. Now, let's look at the topics we will cover in this lesson. This lesson is divided into 3 parts. In part 1, you'll learn: what are active and passive voices? When should we use the passive voice? And how to change active voice to passive in 5 simple steps. In part 2, you'll learn how to convert an imperative sentence to passive, and how to convert active sentences with modal verbs to passive. And in part 3, you'll learn how to convert interrogative sentences to passive, and how to convert WH questions to passive. Before we start, take a pen and paper so you can take notes as we explain everything in detail. Are you ready? Let's get started. First of all, let us understand the meaning of voice. The voice of a verb expresses whether the subject in the sentence has performed or received the action. For example, the teacher opens the door. In this sentence, the subject performs the action. The door is opened by the teacher. But in this sentence, the subject receives the action. Verbs have 2 voices: active voice and passive voice. Active voice indicates what the subject does. Passive voice indicates what happens to the subject. When should we use the passive voice? There are times when you don't want to say who or what did the action. Or maybe you don't know who did the action. Or because the object is the most important part of the action, and you want to change the focus of the sentence. Or you avoid using long and complicated subjects. To understand the passive voice, let's have an example of active voice first. Peter took my book. Subject, verb, and object. The subject does the action to the object. Imagine that you have an exam tomorrow, and your brother Peter has taken your book from the bag. You couldn't find your book when you wanted to study. You don't know who had taken the book. I mean, you could probably guess, but you don't know where the book is. The book was taken by somebody. So, the solution is to use passive voice since we don't know who took the book. Sometimes, we are more interested in talking about the object of the sentence rather than the subject. For example, James Hoban built the White House in Washington, D.C. Suppose, who built the White House is not the focus of our sentence. In this case, we use passive voice. The White House was built in Washington, D.C. Before we start learning the steps to change an active sentence to passive, keep in mind that if you see any form of the verb be, followed by the past participle form, or third form of the verb, that is a passive sentence. For example, the door was opened by the watchman. The verb was is followed by the past participle opened. Now, let's learn the steps to change active voice to passive. There are 5 steps to change an active sentence into a passive one. Step 1. Identify the object of the active sentence. Peter took the book. Keep in mind that if an active sentence doesn't include an object, it is not changeable into passive. Step 2. The object of the active sentence becomes the subject of the passive sentence. Step 3. Identify the tense of the active sentence by checking the verb. This is essential to know that the tense form doesn't change from active to passive sentence. It means both active and passive sentences should be in the same tense. Peter took the book. Now, based on the tense of the active sentence, which is simple past, we apply the structure of passive, be, plus past participle on the passive sentence. We choose the past verb, was, for the new subject, the book. Up to now, our passive sentence looks as follows. The book was. Notice that, out of 12 tenses, we can't change the following 4 tenses to passive voice except for certain exemptions. Present perfect continuous. Past perfect continuous. Future perfect continuous. Future continuous. We will mention the complete structure of how to change the 8 remaining tenses later. Step 4. Looking back at the active sentence, the main verb is took, which is in the past simple. The participle form of take is taken. We need to use the third form in the passive. The book was taken. Step 5. It's optional to use the subject of the active sentence, by phrase, at the end of the passive sentence. The book was taken by Peter. Let's have more examples of passive sentences. The house was painted last week. The report will be submitted tomorrow. The keys were found under the sofa. The car had been left out on the street. An email is being written by Sarah. As you see, the be verb is always followed by the past participle. Let's try to change an active sentence to a passive one together. The storm broke the window. This is an active sentence. Can you remember the 5 steps? Step 1. It's easy. Identify the object. Step 2. The object becomes the subject. Step 3. Identify the tense of the active sentence and use an appropriate be verb accordingly. Step 4. The participle form of the verb break is broken. The window was broken. Step 5. Use by phrase if necessary. The window was broken by the storm. Let's have a look at the complete structure of 8 tenses which can be changed into passive. Practice. Kindly change the following sentences into passive in the comments below. Jessica is writing a letter. A famous author wrote the book. The courier will deliver the message. The mechanic has repaired the car. The committee was making the decision. Part 2. How to convert imperative sentences to passive. What is an imperative sentence? An imperative sentence is used to give an order or command, advice, or request. Let's have an example of order or command. Open the window. An example of advice. Read this book. An example of a request. Please turn on the fan. These are the 3 ways in which an imperative sentence functions. Remember that you is an implied subject in imperative sentences. For instance, you close the door. Close the door. As you see, we don't mention the subject, you, it is an implied subject here. Now, let's learn how to convert an active imperative sentence to passive. For imperative sentences having commands or orders, the structure of active voice is base form of the verb plus object. Converting it to passive, the structure becomes let plus object plus be plus past participle or third form of the verb. Or, you are ordered to plus verb plus object. For imperative sentences having advice, the structure of active voice is first form of the verb plus object. Converting it to passive voice, the structure becomes subject plus should plus be plus past participle. Or, you are advised to plus verb plus object. For imperative sentences having requests, the structure of active voice is please or kindly plus verb plus object. Converting it to passive, the structure becomes you are requested to plus verb plus object. Let's have some examples for each one. An example of giving order or command. Close the door. Let the door be closed. You can also use this structure. You are ordered to close the door. For negative orders or commands, follow this structure. Don't walk barefoot. You are forbidden to walk barefoot. Now let's change an example of imperative advice into passive. Buy a new car. This example can be changed into passive in two ways. A new car should be bought. Or, you are advised to buy a new car. For negative advice, follow this structure. Don't watch this horror movie. You are advised not to watch this horror movie. Finally, let's change an example of an imperative request into a passive one. Please pass the salt. You are requested to pass the salt. For the negative form, please don't write the essay. You are requested not to write the essay. Practice. Kindly change the following sentences into passive in the comments section. Wash the dishes. Please open your books. Wear a red tie. Don't disturb me. Please write the report. Now, let's learn how to convert active sentences with modal verbs to passive. Modal verbs include can, could, may, might, shall, should, will, would, must, and ought to. As we learned, the general structure for a passive sentence is be plus past participle. The structure of passive sentences with modal verbs is subject plus modal verb plus be plus past participle. For example, the application should be submitted by him. Remember that a modal verb is followed by the infinitive, or base form of a verb. We don't add to or change the verb. Now let's change an active sentence with a modal verb to a passive one. She must find the book. First, the object of the active sentence becomes the subject of the passive sentence. Then we add modal verb plus be. Afterwards, we look back to our main verb and add its third form or past participle form. Finally, we mention the agent through by phrase if necessary. The book must be found by her. For the negative form, use this structure. Michael should not buy this phone. This is an active sentence. Converting it to passive, it becomes, this phone should not be bought by Michael. Subject, plus modal verb, plus not, plus be, plus past participle. And for the interrogative form, will he pay the bills? Will the bills be paid by him? Now let's have some more examples. They can't do it. It can't be done. You must obey the traffic rules. The traffic rules must be obeyed. Will he sell your car? Will your car be sold by him? He might fix the refrigerator. The refrigerator might be fixed. Anna should fix her writing. Her writing should be fixed. Practice. Change the following sentences into passive in the comments below. I must clean the house. You should bring a paper. Rachel might cook the food. They can watch the video. David may read the messages. Part 3. Now it's time to learn how to change interrogative sentences to passive voice. Questions beginning with do or does. The normal structure of interrogative sentences in active voice starting with do or does is do, does, plus subject, plus verb, plus object. For instance, does she write the story? When we convert this sentence into passive voice, the structure changes to is, am, are, plus subject, plus third form of the verb, plus by, plus agent. Is the story written by her? Let's look at some more examples for further clarification. Does she pay the bill? Is the bill paid by her? Does Michael teach English? Is English taught by Michael? Do they play cricket? Is cricket played by them? Questions beginning with did. The normal structure of interrogative sentences in active voice starting with did is did plus subject plus verb plus object. For example, did she write the story? While changing the sentence into passive, this structure becomes was, were, plus subject, plus third form of the verb, plus by, plus agent. Was the story written by her? See some more examples for further clarification. Did she pay the bill? Was the bill paid by her? Did Michael teach English? Was English taught by Michael? Did they play cricket? Was cricket played by them? Questions beginning with is, am, are. The normal structure of them in active voice is am, are, plus subject, plus verb, plus ing, plus object. For example, is she writing the story? When we convert this sentence into passive voice, the structure becomes is, am, are, plus subject, plus being, plus past participle, plus by, plus agent. For instance, is the story being written by her? You might have noticed that whenever there is verb, plus ing, in active voice, we should use being, plus third form of the verb, in passive voice. Let's have more examples. Is she paying the bill? Is the bill being paid by her? Is Michael teaching English? Is English being taught by Michael? Are they playing cricket? Is cricket being played by them? Questions beginning with was or were. The normal structure of interrogative sentences in active voice starting with was or were is was, were, plus subject, plus verb, plus ing, plus object. For example, was she writing the story? While changing the sentence into passive, this structure becomes was, were, plus subject, plus being, plus third form of the verb, plus by, plus agent or doer of the action. Was the story being written by her? Let's see some more examples to clarify this. Was she paying the bill? Was the bill being paid by her? Was Michael teaching English? Was English being taught by Michael? Were they playing cricket? Was cricket being played by them? Questions beginning with have, has, had. The normal structure of them in active voice is have, has, had, plus subject, plus past participle, plus object. For instance, has she written the story? While changing the sentence into passive, this structure becomes have, has, had, plus subject, plus been, plus third form of the verb, plus by, plus agent. Has the story been written by her? Let's see some more examples to clarify this. Has she paid the bill? Has the bill been paid by her? Has Michael taught English? Has English been taught by Michael? Have they played cricket? Has cricket been played by them? Practice. Kindly change the following sentences into passive in the comments section. Does he watch the match? Did they draw a map? Is she playing chess? Was Alex teaching chemistry? Have they fixed the computer? Questions beginning with modal verbs. The normal structure of them in active voice is modal, plus subject, plus verb, plus object. For example, can she write the story? While changing the sentence into passive, this structure becomes modal, plus subject, plus be, plus past participle, plus by, plus agent, or doer of the action. Can the story be written by her? See some more examples for further clarification. Will she pay the bill? Will the bill be paid by her? Can Michael teach English? Can English be taught by Michael? Shall we play cricket? Shall cricket be played by us? Now, let's learn how to change WH questions into passive voice. Questions starting with what, why, where, when, who, whom, which, how, and whose are known as WH questions. The normal structure of WH questions in active voice is WH word plus auxiliary plus subject plus verb plus object. For example, why did she motivate you? While changing the sentence into passive, this structure becomes word plus auxiliary plus subject plus past participle plus by plus agent. Why were you motivated by her? See some more examples for a better understanding. Why have you bought this ticket? Why has this ticket been bought by you? When will you return the book? When will the book be returned by you? What did she buy? What was bought by her? Where are they building the hospital? Where is the hospital being built by them? Questions beginning with who. In such kinds of questions, who is a question pronoun used as the subject. For example, who has broken the glass? While changing this question to passive, it becomes, by whom has the glass been broken? In here, who changes to whom, because whom is the objective case of who. Remember to use a suitable auxiliary verb for the subject of passive voice. In this sentence, the passive subject is glass, and a suitable auxiliary verb for this subject is has. We cannot use have, since our subject is singular. See some examples to comprehend this. Who will keep the money? By whom will the money be kept? Who wrote this poem? By whom was this poem written? Who has not submitted the project yet? By whom has the project not been submitted yet? Who is singing the songs? By whom are the songs being sung? Questions beginning with whom. Whom is a question pronoun used as the object. The normal structure of questions beginning with whom in active voice is whom plus auxiliary verb plus subject plus main verb. For example, whom do you love? While changing the sentence into passive, this structure becomes who plus auxiliary plus past participle plus by plus agent. In here, whom changes to who, because who is the subjective case of whom. Who is loved by you? See some examples to comprehend this. Whom did he choose? Who was, or were chosen by him? Whom has she called? Who has been called by her? Whom haven't you given the money? Who hasn't been given the money by you? Whom will she vote? Who will be voted by her? Practice. Kindly change the following questions to passive in the comments section. Can you invite my friend? Will he draw a picture? What are you reading? Where did you meet her? When did you send him? Well done for making it all the way through. Now that you have learned about active and passive voice, we have prepared a quiz for you to test your understanding. The link is in the description below. If you found this lesson useful, kindly like the video and subscribe for more valuable content. See you in our upcoming videos.